Yes, it's the 27th of April, 2015. Yes. A big week coming up for a lot of reasons, and I'll tell you right now, I got my buddy, broadcast partner Dave Barnick from the south end of the county talking sports along with Jimmy Seneca County. We're coming on early this morning. Hope you got the word. Hope you're joining us early on because we got some special things we got to do. So we'll be going off the air about 9:45 this morning. Good morning, everybody. It's a dog with you in the kennel on a Monday morning. A little chilly out there this morning, but hey, the forecast, Dave is recuperating from some surgery. We'll get to Dave's situation in a minute. But the forecast starting tomorrow all the way through Sunday, low 60s, high 60s, nothing but sun. So, hey, knock on wood, we finally got some good weather coming our way. Hope you had a good weekend, everybody. It's good to have you alongside. And, of course, without further ado, it's good to bring in my longtime friend. As I've told you many times on the show, I met David back in the 70s when he was interested in coming to WSFW. Why he would do that, no one knows. But he came in, he auditioned, and we were a team covering high school sports back in the 70s, and we've been friends ever since and broadcast partners. And by the way, as you know, David is a member of the team here at Finger Lakes One that is still covering sports, basketball style, some, 25 or 30 events that Jim put together this year with our broadcast team. So, David, good morning. Welcome to the show. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you, H, and looking forward to the show and getting out of the house. And lots going on in the world of sports.
And by the way, belated sympathies. I know you lost your mom a few weeks ago, so I know that's tough for you. And how's the family doing?
Well, the family's doing great, and I appreciate the sentiments. And Jim came down, and the cards. You sent a very nice card. It's always tough.
It is, yeah.
At any age.
Oh, yeah.
But she was a great lady.
How old was your mom?
94.
Yeah, 94. That's my dad. He passed at 94, and Mom passed at 92, and it's well documented. Both parents fought that Alzheimer's situation the last 8 years of their life. Tough way, but it's tough, and it's tough. But you know, life goes on, and certainly you'll obviously, like I've been doing, thinking about the memories.
It was great to have my children who both live out of state. I mean, it's always sad. Weddings or funerals. Sure. Weddings are nicer, but yeah. It was nice to have them both home.
That's great. Well, David, lots to talk about. Let's move to Jimmy now. Of course, the SU football program is, not doing all that great under Schaefer right now. They're expecting to improve. I know Jim's looking for improvement from Syracuse, being an alumni that he is, and the Syracuse fan base. Not as, I guess, excited as their basketball program. But with the football program, Jimmy, announcement over the weekend, some kid out of I believe his name is Washington, out of North Carolina, 4-star.
Yeah, Robert Washington. Now, there's a name that Syracuse fans can get behind.
There you go.
And I don't get too excited. I mean, the thing that's excited is this guy was offered by Alabama and Florida and some other big-time programs and chose Syracuse because he wants to lead us back.
That's great.
And he appreciates the history of 44. There's some talk of maybe he'll wear 44. They'll bring it back out of retirement. But with any recruit, I don't get too excited because, he might not even end up on campus before it's all over with, or same thing with basketball recruits. A few years ago we were so excited about Ron Patterson and B.J. Johnson and Chris McCullough, and now here we are less than 2 years later and none of them are on the team.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is. Well, David, staying on Syracuse, I haven't talked to you. Certainly you've been involved and made comments about the Boeheim and the SU explosion by the NCAA and the penalties giving out the Boeheim, targeting Jim Boeheim as the commander-in-chief of SU basketball going back several years, alleged allegations, wrongdoings. Interesting, Mark Emmerick, the president of the NCAA, who I can't stand, by the way, personally, made a comment over the weekend when asked about the SU penalties, indicated that the punishment by SU was in the NCAA's wheelhouse. And he went on further to expound that he said, when they invested Syracuse and came to the campus, and I hope I'm doing this correctly, they found that SU basically had agreed that they were out of order, that they had done some things impropriety, and that made their job at the NCAA level much easier. Your comments about the penalties, what your thought about Boeheim and the scars and maybe his integrity, basically. What do you think of all that?
Or his legacy.
His legacy, yeah.
But, I read the Bleeding Orange book perfectly at the same time all this was going on. First of all, I thought, who spends 8 years investigating anything?
Yeah, right.
And then you have this year's team with no evidence of any wrongdoing of anybody on this team. They spend 8 years investigating the situation, and the pompous NC2A can't wait over the weekend when the season had ended to announce their penalties. They announce it on the eve before this year's team's last game.
Amazing.
And I think that says their insensitivity. I think that says a lot in itself.
I agree.
And everything I've been reading as a Syracuse fan, I'm happy to say, says the Syracuse recruiting goes on without missing a beat, and they've got great recruits coming in.
Yep. Basically, the next year's class, Jim knows better than anyone, is supposed to be the best of his career, right, Jimmy? One of the best?
That's what they're saying. They didn't get Thomas Bryant like we talked about last week, but it's the same type of thing. We're going to get top level, top 50 talent every single year to Syracuse, and I try not to get too excited about certain people because they're just names at this point. I watch their YouTube videos, and that's impressive. This guy can dunk. This guy looks like he can shoot, but you never know how they're going to fit into Boeheim's system or how they're going to adjust to college life. And then you get the real good ones like McCullough and Dante Green or Carmelo Anthony, and it's hard to get too excited about them because it's going to be a limited window that you're going to enjoy watching them play. So, again, with the recruiting, it's great to hear we have these 4-star and 5-star players coming into the program, but I don't try to get too excited beyond that until we open the season in early November.
Well, I hope the appeal doesn't take 8 years because Boeheim would be about 80 years old then.
Yeah, well, maybe he'd still be coaching because he wants to see this thing through.
And ironically, according to the NCAA attorneys, that there's 1 million of them that involve themselves in NCAA problems, they basically say the chance of winning those appeals are slim to none. They don't very seldom overturn them. It'll be interesting to see, however, if they lessen the penalties on the scholarships and Boeheim being banned for half of the ACC schedule next year. No practice, no lunches, no breakfast.
Well, again, as a fan of both Syracuse, Boeheim, and the area, I was hoping for him to get 1,000 victories and then retire. And unless some of those get restored, that won't happen, I don't think now.
I think we will win the appeal. A lot of those penalties will be rescinded. And I think they're recruiting as if it will be. They're already over-recruiting according to their scholarships that they'll potentially have. So
it's going to be interesting.
But the book, I really would advise friends or foes, critics or fans of Syracuse and Boeheim to read that book because he touches on the other investigation that took place, and you really get a sense of his attitude about things. And I came away with favorable impressions about him.
Yeah.
Interesting, switching topics about, the NCAA and not actually staying on this topic about coach and the ability or the inability for people to understand how Dave Barnick could be a coach of a celebrated NCAA team and decide to finish the season out, sign a contract, and then decide to go elsewhere for mucho dollars. And it comes to mind, speaking of a great ESPN production, I Hate Kristen Leitner, which I saw 3 times, by the way. I love that show. He was brutal, hell of an athlete. How many people can say they won 2 championships and they made the Final Four in all his 4 years at Duke? But I think of Bobby Hurley, and it comes to mind, it just nags me about how college coaches can go anywhere they want to go for more money at a spur of a moment. Bobby Hurley, of course, bringing Buffalo to the NCAA, David, as you know. I love Buffalo. I love the Wings. I love the Bills. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love Western New York. I love this. Arizona State calls him, gives him $500,000 more. He's on the plane leaving to Arizona State at midnight. College kids can't go anywhere. They're restricted. To me, I understand, it's
a double
America.
standard.
It's a double standard. And it really annoys me. It just grits me to think that coaches can do whatever they want, go from city to city, keep increasing their purses and their financial outlook. And these college kids have certain regulations which are, to me, are just stupid. It's just a double-edged sword.
Absolutely correct.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And Bobby Hurley I love. And I was so disappointed what he did there because he was so proud of bringing Buffalo to the NCAA, and they were looking toward the future under his leadership, and he gets a call, extra $500,000, bye.
Yeah, but if you're a MAC school like Buffalo, that's the world you live in, and you got to be expecting that. I mean, Pac-10, MAC, or it's the Buffalo's in the MAC conference, correct? Yeah. So,
what's interesting that on that Leitner thing.
Yeah.
When you look at the rules today, not only in college, but in the NBA as well, and what happened even this weekend.
Yeah.
Leitner stomping on that
saw
Kentucky
that.
player.
Oh, I saw that.
In that, I mean, he would have been gone in, a New York minute.
Yeah.
And everything would have changed
That's true.
from the perspective of
You're
his
right.
career.
Not only his career, Dave, but I argue that if he's ejected there, the whole future of Duke
Bingo.
could have changed because that was the first one. That was
right.
Duke's breakthrough.
You're right.
And if he was thrown out, he wasn't there to make that shot against Kentucky.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
You just never know, and that's why people don't understand why. Geez, Jim, why do you hate Duke so much? I said, because it's not like I saw it happen from the beginning, and I saw them get the preferential treatment from the very beginning, and it's frustrating. Now they have 5 national titles, and
They're tough. They are tough.
Although Jim Boeheim loves Coach K, and
he does.
he may be one big part of the reason why Boeheim's still coaching because of the USA basketball involvement.
Yeah, it could be, and it's nice to see. I think when you're a member of an exclusive club like the 900 win club, which hopefully Boeheim can stay a member of, you're going to fraternize with the other members of that exclusive club and become friends.
It made it difficult this year with March Madness, didn't it? To be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, pick your poison. Duke won, which I know you didn't like, Jim.
Yep.
But the fact that Kentucky didn't
Was
had
good.
you salivating in other ways.
Yeah, I was a big
right.
Wisconsin fan
Yeah.
on Monday night of the championship Monday. But
And Dave Barnick's our special guest this morning on the Weber Show. Weber this week on a Monday morning, along with Jimmy Seneca. We're having like a little fireside chat about various sports topics, David. Before we take our commercial break, Alex Rodriguez back in the game of baseball, somewhat productive. Bat speed's pretty good, hitting a few out of the park. Teixeira's warming up. Harvey's outstanding for the Mets across town. Your quick synopsis of the Yankees so far. Seemed like they're somewhat impressive early on.
I think Girardi's done a great job the last 2 years. If they win 80 games this year, he will have done another great job. Mm-hmm. It's only April. I don't expect for much. Stephen Drew, Are you kidding me? I mean, he's still, if he hits 200, it's like an all-star year for him.
I'll tell you one guy that's ripping off that payroll department is that Sabathia guy.
Oh,
it's time for him to head for NYP material.
Kind of sad. He's wore out.
Sad.
Yeah.
He can't get anybody out.
I mean, they do have good relief pitching.
They do.
And,
Miller. I love Miller.
Yeah.
And Tanaka seems like he's getting back in this. And I love Pineda.
As much as I hate to admit it, I would have to say the Mets are on the rise. And
I've never been a Mets fan. You know,
I still kind of like the Orioles in the American League East again this year.
The Mets, I got to give them credit. I've never been a big fan of the Mets. I always made fun of them. I remember the year of '69 Seaver Magic. I remember all that. But I always like pulling against the Mets, and they're 14-4.
Long way to go, though.
Great
Mets
business.
fans are already punching their ticket to the playoffs.
Be careful. I love Harvey, coming off Tommy John surgery. You never know though with Harvey. Excellent pitcher.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, they're going to put the Batman signal
They're
above
talking
Manhattan
about
when
it.
he's pitching. I heard Mike Golick say that.
And David, before we go to our break, I got to say I kind of have a diehard love for the Cubs. Cubs have been down so many years. Joe Madden's there. They got the Bryant kid, the young phenom.
The crazy thing,
I
Harold,
love the Cubs.
I was in Vegas at the end of March, looked at all the futures bets, and these crazy, zany Cub fans, at one casino, the odds for them to win the World Series, this team who hasn't won anything in 100 years, was 6-1.
Oh, to win the World Series?
6-1, because a friend of mine asked me to place a $20 bet on the Cubs and
Not at 6-1.
and the Bears
6-1.
because he's from Chicago, Jim Stoyer.
Yep.
And are you kidding me? 6-1?
Wow.
I did find a 10, 11-1 bet on that, which still, well, I hope the Cubs do win it. That would be awesome. As you
By
get
the
older,
way,
you like to see those things.
For all you Dave Barnick family members and relatives and friends, he made $50,000 when he was in Vegas. He's got it stashed in the trunk. So if you need to borrow some money from Dave, he'd be more than glad to give you a few thou.
Call me up.
I will. The interest rate is only 22%. We'll continue with Weber this week. Dave Barnick's my special guest, along with Jimmy Seneca. We'll be back with more. Hugo Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquors, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Wilson Press, WPress.com, Seneca Falls. Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Dog with you in the Kennel on a Weber This Week show on a Monday. By the way, upcoming shows next week, talking Trinity Church. Jan Carasillo, Kathy Jans Duffy will be on the couch talking about the history of Trinity Church. Big things they're doing down there. They'll be our special guest, or my special guest next week. The following week on the 11th of May, a friend of mine, the president of Generations Bank, him and his committees and his team, led by Sweet Lou Ferrara and everybody else involving Habitat for Humanity, driving force in the area. Menzo Case will be here on the 11th. Menzo Case, the president of Generations Bank, will be here on May 11th. David, let's show what you brought in this morning. Your son sent you something.
I see how the clock, when you and I get talking, keeps rolling.
Oh, we talk.
So before I do that,
yep.
We haven't touched that. This weekend we have the NBA playoffs,
Yep.
we have the NHL playoffs, we have the Kentucky Derby, we
yeah.
have the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight.
A lot of things going on.
Major League Baseball, all that and more, and it pales in comparison to the 70th birthday party of one Harold Weber.
Well, the
this
birthday
Saturday.
Yeah, Jim
Excuse me.
Senecropi, my finance owner, and who I've been with for 4 years, is going to be one of the roasters. I don't imagine what he could say bad about me, but I'm sure he's thinking of something. Maybe Kathleen's helping him out with material. I don't know. But
I don't need any help with
okay,
that.
go ahead.
My son was kind enough to send me this Rochester Royals jersey.
That is awesome.
That is
and
nice.
he personalized it. This was my high school number, by the way.
Oh, really? Before the age of 44 was a heralded Syracuse University number.
Wow.
It was a Dave. Or actually, it was probably back then. It was still known
I
for
had
football.
to give them permission to use it. Actually,
What came first, though? Your high school wearing that in high school? That
No,
number,
I
or
think,
you got it because of the
I'm
Syracuse
not older
football?
than Jim Brown.
Oh, I know. I just
Davis.
didn't know if that's what inspired you to pick that number.
Actually, there was a guy a couple years older than me, and I kind of looked up to him. But Rochester Royals of the NBA later became the Cincinnati Royals, the Omaha, Kansas City Kings. Now they're the Sacramento Kings, and my son works for them.
Nice.
And they had a couple throwback days.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's a unique item.
Yeah. Well, David, I don't know if you're an NHL playoff. See, Dave's suffering from a bad cold. We've all been there. David, I don't know if you're a big NHL playoff fan. Rangers look good. You follow hockey at all?
I have a Las Vegas ticket that I bought a year ago on the Detroit Red Wings, so they're my new favorite team.
What were the odds on that, of winning it?
I think they're like 12-1 or something like that.
Good. Well, the
Rangers are the team to beat, they say.
I like the Rangers, I like the Rangers.
But in the playoffs, whoever has the hot goalie
Yep.
usually surprises and at least gets to the final.
Unlike the NBA playoffs, where you can pretty much pencil in your Final Four now, NHL is a little more unpredictable.
Well, Dave, we talked about it via phone yesterday when I asked you to come in early. Your Celtics played decently. The Cavaliers, just too much talent. Love, of course, getting hurt. That kid's going to be a big loss for him. Talk a bit about your Celtics.
I watched them a lot this year. I bought the NBA ticket, both to catch Sacramento, and I watched Brad Stevens, one of the premier coaches. Danny Ainge has assembled not only a basket load of draft picks, which he may keep, trade, whatever, but they have a bunch of good players and role players who played hard. They just couldn't get over the top with Cleveland, but you have to be enthusiastic if you're a Celtic fan. Mm-hmm. They did pick up one very good player, Isaiah Thomas. I I think the future looms pretty bright for the 17-time world champion Boston Celtics.
Just not the immediate future. It'll be
unfortunate what happened to Love. I could see, and J.R. Smith, thug that he is, revealed himself once again.
Yeah.
He's probably out for several games. So LeBron and Kyrie will really have to carry the loaves of bread for the
I know
Cavs.
we spent a lot of time on this show talking about the incredible ability of a LeBron James. I'm certainly not going to say he's Michael Jordan-ish at this point of my life or this point of his career. But I'll tell you what, that guy's got so many abilities. It's scary. It's flat out scary what he can do on a basketball court.
He is unbelievable.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
He really, even though I root against him because I'm not a fan of his team,
Right.
I have to respect his tremendous abilities and really the way he manages himself.
By the way, the Spurs losing yesterday at home against the Clippers, big loss for them. Now the advantage goes back to the Clippers.
Yeah, I don't think home court means a lot there, but whoever comes out of that, I'm rooting for Golden State to go the distance this year. Steph Curry, amazing as well.
And by the way, folks, I just remind you as we get ready to wrap up our show on a different time version only this week, I want to remind you, speaking of guests coming up on the show, I mentioned the ladies from Trinity Church next week, and then the following week, Men's Case. We're working on booking in Tim Brown, the son of Doug Brown, who's a member of the country club. Tim Brown, of course, is now working to become a PGA status guy. He's working at the Sodas Bay Heights.
Assistant pro up at
Assistant
Sodas,
pro.
Yep.
Tim Brown, we're trying to track him down to come on the couch and talk about his career. We'll let you know when we finalize that date. So
he'll have a lot to talk about, too. Those guys on their way home from South Carolina where Tim completed his schooling, Doug and Tim and Darren
Pinehurst, right?
Stopped and played Pinehurst.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is Tim the young man who helped at the country club here?
Yeah.
Doug's son?
Yep.
And just got out of high school?
Seems like it, but it's been 3 years now,
Really?
I think, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Doug's a super guy. I continually always call him Steve Hyde. I mix the two of them up, so publicly I said it, so I'll never do it again.
Well, certainly.
Speaking of two good golfers.
They got a lot of game. They got a lot of game. I always remember my dad, God bless his soul. He used to visit me in the late summer championship weekend at the country club. The better players, the scratch players, and then we'd have all the different flights. And Doug was always seemed to be in the finals for a few years. And me and the old man got a cart, and drinking a cold beer, and had a few in the back to take when we ran out of the first ones. And he'd get up on the 8th green, and Doug would have a 12-footer for birdie, which he'd 3-jack for bogey. And then the 9th green, he'd get home in 2 and then 3-jack that for a par. And going to the 10th tee, my old man says, "That Doug hits a great golf ball, but he can't putt." And I always reminded Doug of that. My father had a quick comment about his putting lack of ability. But
he's still working on it. He's using a side saddle putting method this year, which I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's kind of crazy. He's got a special putter. He stands to the side facing the hole.
No kidding.
And you kind of,
really?
as you're facing the hole, you kind of boop.
Well, I've considered a croquet mallet.
That's kind of like the way it does, except you cannot straddle the line. So
is that legal? That's
legal.
It
is, as long as you don't straddle the line.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, listen, Dave, I hate to say it. Before we go off the air, I want to remind everybody it's always good to have our sponsors support this program for many, many years. You know, we have a great ability. I'm very fortunate to have Billy Ryan, 30-some years, and a Padulo family for over 30 years themselves. We're going to announce a new sponsor coming on next week. Chichinos is coming on the show.
Oh, nice.
And we're looking forward to bringing Sal Friend Zone. And I want to give you their wonderful theme of their restaurants in Geneva, Waterloo. Live, laugh, eat well, the Italian way. It's also the Chichinos way. So Jimmy and myself will be working out a little talk over on that ad this week, getting ready for next week. But it's great to have Sal Friend Zone, who's been on the show. He's been instrumental in getting guests. And speaking of upcoming guests, yes, the gentleman Lee Bieber down there in Bronx, New York, the Brooklyn area, indicating that he's been coming to town to buy the properties in Waterloo. He's the guy that's been buying all those buildings up there in Waterloo for potential enhancement of that village. I've been in contact. I've never met him. I've been in email contact, and Sal Friend Zone led me his way. He's agreed to come on the show. So he'll be coming on the show. We just don't know when. He's got to work it out that he comes to the area, so he arrives on a Sunday night to come on the air on Monday morning. So Lee Bieber, the guy that's been buying all the properties, he'll be on the show coming up in a few weeks.
Yep.
So that's good news. David, thanks again. Sorry to have to run this morning, but
I look forward to feeling 100% and a quick return to the show. I'll always enjoy it.
And I look forward to seeing you.
We're still trying to get Dave to have his own show.
That's right.
I think it's time.
Then I can have you as a guest.
I would love to. Yeah, yeah. By the way, him and his girlfriend Delane will be at the roast on Saturday night. David's promised me that he's not going to get up and say anything bad about me. Right, David? Yeah.
You
have nothing planned at this point in time.
Thank God.
I got something.
Jimmy does.
I got a couple stories.
I know you do. Okay. Hey, listen, it's my week, my daughter's week. And by the way, Samantha, if you're watching this show, sometimes she does. Payback is a B. You know what I'm talking about, honey. You're going to get the dog, but I'll get you back in a few years. All right, that's the show this morning. We'll catch you next week. Always have a great week, folks. Enjoy the golf. If you're a golfer, get out and enjoy it this week. For Dave Barnick and Jimmy Seneca, the dog saying, see ya.
by becoming a patron of FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com